Well, you're stealing my next question here. This one is for you, Shadow Minister. You have criticised the Labor target. You don't appear to have one. Will you set a target and will you keep in place the housing planning reform the state signed up to, whether that be reform it in some way, keep it, or will you scrap it?
Well, the problem for Clare and the government is that when you continually say to Australians, who I think have every right to take you at face value, that you're going to deliver 1.2 million homes when you're falling hundreds of thousands of homes short, you're insulting their intelligence. When you tell Australians, as Clare just did then in her remarks, that the Labor government's building more homes, well, that is against every single ABS statistic that every single person in this room could find very easily on their phone. We're building fewer homes after 3 years of the Labor government than the former coalition government which Clare criticises. So if the former coalition government was so terrible, I wonder how Clare would judge this government, because they're building 30,000 homes a year less. So we're building fewer homes and yet we have a government putting out a target that they now know they won't meet.
Well,
they now know they won't meet. Well, we will build more homes than the Labor Party. In the preceding 5 years before this government came to power, Australia built more than 1 million homes. Routinely in Australia, over 5-year periods, in about the last 25 years, we've built more than 1 million homes. We're not on track to build 1 million homes after 5 years of the Labor government, so we've actually gone backwards. We're not even maintaining the status quo of what Australia was building previously. So we're going backwards, and at the same time that we're going backwards, we have a government that's had this genius idea to run a world record migration program, which has driven rents up by nearly 20%. Renters are the biggest casualty of the Big Australia policy from the Labor Party, with 20% increases. So I can assure you, Tom, and I can assure Australians, just like we built more homes in the previous coalition government, we will build more homes than Labor.
But you've said Labor's done terribly and your past mark is just a bit better than terrible.
Well, no, a couple of hundred homes more is a lot. I mean, 30,000 homes a year is a lot of homes, Tom. That is what the shortfall is under this government. So they're building fewer homes.
So 200,000 more than what are you saying you'll build?
But more than the Labor Party, absolutely.
More than they did in this term?
No, more than their trajectory at the moment, which is at least 400,000 homes short. So my point is this.
So you're saying they'll get to 800 out of the 1.2 and you'll get to 1 million?
Well,
is that
I'm saying we will get to as many as we possibly can, but I'm certain it will be higher than Labor.
Okay.
What I'm not willing to do is insult the intelligence of Australians.
And just quickly on the planning reform.
And put in place a target that I won't be responsible for and Clare won't be responsible for in 10 years' time.
And just quickly on that planning reform with the states, is that something you'll take carriage of, or are you going to scrap that?
No, look, I don't think there's anything wrong with housing ministers at a federal level trying to encourage states to undertake planning and zoning reform. One area where Clare and I will probably agree is that a big part of the problem that we've faced over many decades is the constraints we see at a state level. However, I think it's heroic for federal governments to claim that they're going to go in and reform state laws that are the province and responsibility of state governments.
Okay.
So we'll work with them absolutely, but I wouldn't want to set an unrealistic expectation, which I fear the Labor government has. I mean, for example, Chris Minns committed to a target and then within 2 months admitted he wouldn't even get halfway towards that target.
Okay.
So it gets back to the point of what's a target worth if you're not going to get anywhere near it?
Quick response, Minister, before we go.
Well, I mean, I think what you just heard there is more of the evasion and unwillingness to take any responsibility for this problem that led to 9 years of total neglect of this by the coalition. And I'd say, you know, the claim that the Liberals are going to build more houses is ridiculous. They don't have any policies that are seriously going to do that. What I can tell you is this weird cocktail of things that the Liberals have dreamed up are going to lead to more expensive homes and fewer homes being built around the country. Why is that the case? Because most of the $32 billion that our government is injecting into building more homes will be scrapped by Michael and his colleagues.
Okay.
What we know is that when you take the policies they have said they will unwind, it will lead to 210,000 fewer homes, and no one can forget in this discussion the Dud's Super for Housing policy, which is going to, the evidence suggests, raise house prices by $92,000 around our capital cities and build not a single new home for the country.
Let me get to some of the policies. The supply issue, everybody agrees, is a huge one, in particular workers. So about 2.8% of construction workers are overseas arrivals. That's half the rate of other industries. You're calling it a crisis, not you alone, but you're calling it a crisis. Is it time to make it just as easy to get a construction worker through the skilled migrant system as it is a nurse, for example, and remove barriers such as the local labour test and the $10,000 fee?
Look, Tom, our main priority is always going to be train Australians first for these jobs. So that's why you've seen our government make massive investments in this. Remember, free TAFE that the Coalition say that they want to scrap, 500,000 Australians have trained in new professions through that. About 40,000, sorry, it's actually 600,000 now, and about 40,000 of those people have trained in construction professions. The Prime Minister has also put a proposal in place that gives $10,000 to apprentices that have those skills who come and train in residential construction. We will use the migration system where it's needed. Last year,
Isn't it needed? Quite clearly, there is a shortage. You're saying you won't make it any easier to get construction workers in?
Well, the challenge is not necessarily the ease of bringing construction workers in. We have a demand-driven migration system. About 10,000 construction workers came in through that system last year. I'd expect those numbers to be around the same. But, Tom, we're an Australian government and our focus is making sure that we train Australians for these fantastic jobs. If you're a Sparky, if you're going to build a home, you're probably never going to be out of work in Australia, and we want to support our young people.
But there are barriers in there you could remove, such as a $10,000 fee and a labour market test. You won't consider that?
When the construction professions are on the list of professions that are in shortage in Australia today, Tom, so I don't agree that there are major constraints in the migration system to bring construction workers to Australia. What I will say is that we're a government that's got serious investments and policies on the table to train up Australians. The Coalition don't.